Hello YouTube, this is Corbin22 here. Welcome back to the single ship discussion for Star Wars X-Wing miniatures. In this series we take a look at single ship builds and discuss their competitive viability in the Star Wars X-Wing miniatures game. Tonight we're looking at the one and only Wedge Antilles, flying his signature Incom T-65 X-Wing Space Superiority Fighter. The X-Wing has been dubbed as the starfighter that killed the Death Star because, well, it literally killed the Death Star. Luke Skywalker was the one who made the run, relying more on the Force than his targeting systems in order to make the shot, which some dub as a lucky shot. And the ship itself has a very balanced stat line. It's greatly superior than its predecessors, the Z95 line, and well, those 4 laser cannons on each wingtip for added firepower. It can be fired in single bursts, as well as two at a time or all 4 at once. Comes equipped with a Class 1 hyperdrive, pretty decent shield generator, medium to heavy hull, an onboard astromech for in-flight repairs and navigations, and 4 fusio thrust engines for incredibly fast sublight flight. The ship, however, did have its disadvantages. They were heavier and sturdier than the TIE fighters, that's true, but the TIE fighters were much more agile and nimble than the X-Wing, so what the TIE fighters had in speed and agility, the X-Wings had in durability and firepower, so a bit of a trade-off in there, but overall this was the go-to ship for Rogue Squadron, as well as, or Red Squadron I should say, as well as the 12 elite pilots of Rogue Squadron. And once Luke Skywalker left to pursue his training as a Jedi, Wedge Antilles took over, and he, along with the other 12 members that kind of came and went with the squadron, accomplished many missions together, helped take down the second Death Star, and canonically, I believe he was also there to help with the Battle of Jakku. Canonically, I say. But non-canonically, he continued to lead Rogue Squadron through the age of the New Republic, and all while still relying on his trusty X-Wing fighter. Never, because again, the ship was pretty much a perfect balance of speed, maneuverability, and defense, as well as firepower. You really can't go wrong with a ship like this. Anyway, enough of that. Let's look at the pilot himself and the upgrades you've given him for this build. So we have Commander Wedge Antilles of Rogue Squadron himself. Coming in at a pilot skill of 9, he flies the Incom T-65 X-Wing for the Rebel Alliance. He has the standard stat line of an X-Wing. He has an attack value of 3, an agility value of 2, a hull value of 3, and a shield value of 2. His action bar consists of the focus and target lock actions. He costs 29 squadron points to field, so he's a rather expensive ship. And his upgrade bar consists of an elite upgrade, a warhead, an astromech, as well as an unlisted tile-in modification. His pilot ability reads, when attacking, reduce the defender's agility value by 1 to a minimum of 0. So this ability right here turns Wedge into a bomber killer. Because they lose their agility, because most bombing or heavy ships only have like an agility value of like 0 to 1, depending on who you fire at. So Wedge is good at, regardless of what, regardless of whether he's at range 2 or at range 1 preferably, Wedge will strip the enemy of at least 1 agility value down to a minimum of 0, and make it so that his shots will be pretty more likely to hit. So for an expensive ship, I say the pilot ability justifies that. Now, in order to help him keep up with the newer ships that are coming in Wave 8, namely the Incom T-70 X-Wing, the TIE FO fighters, as well as the Miss Hunter and all those other ships that will be coming out with Wave 8. For his modification, we've chosen an engine upgrade, which means his action bar gains the boost action icon. So for a cost of 4, Wedge now has 3 actions to perform. He can take a focus, he can take a target lock, and he can take a boost, similar to that of the standard T-70 X-Wings of the Resistance. And so this will help him keep on par with those ships, as well as any other fast interceptor ships that can boost as well. Also gives him more flexibility, because with a focus target lock, you're really limited in what you can do. With a boost action, it'll help you, say, if you overshoot your enemy, you can kind of boost to kind of help rectify that and get them back into their line of fire. Now for his elite upgrade, rather than give him opportunist, which is what I normally would do, I decided to give him outmaneuver because I think this benefits his ability much better. Outmaneuver for a cost of 3 states when attacking a ship inside your firing arc. If you are not inside that ship's firing arc, reduce its agility value by 1 to a minimum of 0. So without maneuver, Wedge can come in at the side, and he'll reduce the enemy's agility value by 2, coupled with, because his regular pilot ability, regardless of what angle he attacks at, outmaneuver works when he's outside the enemy's firing arc when attacking. So that basically means the enemy's agility value will go down by 2, which makes him even more which makes it even more deadly, because well, you know, and now ships like say the Slave One or the Outrider, or any other ship with an agility value of 2 at least, at most 2, or at least 2, they're going to lose those agility points, and Wedge is pretty much guaranteed to that his shots are going to hit them. And of course, at range 1, he'll have 4 attack dice, so that means pretty brutal damage up close. Now, for his warhead. This used to be one of my favorite warheads for a long time until I started using advanced torpedoes with Keon Farlander. That is the flechette torpedoes. They're very cheap, and they come with a very useful ability, in my opinion. They come in at a squad point cost of 2, so they're probably the cheapest warheads you can put on an X-wing, or any ship for that matter. They have an attack value 3 and can be only used at range 2 to 3. And it states, discard this card and spend your target lock to perform this attack. After you perform this attack, the defendant receives 1 stress token if its hull value is 4 or lower. At first, I misread this. I originally thought that if the total hull value of the ship is 4 or lower, then they get stressed. So basically, what I thought that meant is if I wore the ship down to a hull value until their hull value was at least 4 or lower, then they would get stressed. One of my watchers, my subscribers, rectified this and said that no, this only applies if their total hull value is 4 or lower. So that means if this were to be used on a ship with a hull value of 5 or higher, they would not get stressed, even if they were damaged down to less than that. This only applies to their initial hull value. So basically, this would work on pretty much every single TIE fighter in the game, except for the the TIE bombers and the TIE punishers, the shuttles, as well as the Slave One, and basically pretty much every heavy ship or any bomber that has a hull point value of 4 or lower, this a 5 or higher, then this would be pretty much moot. You'd only be using this just for damage. But most opponents are going to be fielding starfighters with hull values of 4 or lower, so this is definitely going to help, because they'll get the thing I like most about the flechette torpedoes is even if this attack misses, as long as their hull value is 4 or lower, they are going to get stressed regardless if this hits or misses. Coupling this with the munitions failsafe is pretty much a good way to deal stress out to your opponent, because you can spam the torpedoes as long as you keep missing, and then of course they'll get stressed. They won't take damage, but they'll get stressed, and you can keep the flechettes and use them again. So this is a good, coupling this with munitions failsafe would make this a very, very good stressing tool. Similar to the stress bot that you would put on a BTL Y-wing, because you know you get stressed, they get stressed, and then of course if you use TLT, then it applies to every time you attack, so on and so forth. And for his astromech, to give him a little bit of leeway just in case he ever does get stressed, chosen an R2 astromech. Comes in at a squad point cost of 1, the cheapest astromech you can field onto an X-wing or a Y-wing, unless of course you field R2D6, which I think is also about the same cost. And it reads, you may treat all 1 and 2 speed maneuvers as green maneuvers. So that means Wedge has a lot more flexibility when it comes to getting rid of stress. So if for whatever reason he gets stressed, rather than just relying on his speed 1, all of his speed 1s and just his straight speed 2s, the rest of his speed 2 dial also becomes green maneuvers, so you can do a hard 2 or a soft 2, and it'll help you remove the stress. So this is kind of how I would field Wedge. The strategy behind Wedge, this build, I would primarily use him as a full-on offense. So you want to rocket in there. We use your boost early on, rocket in there, get behind or beside the guy or whatever, get out of their firing arc, make sure they stay in your firing arc, nail them with, first what I would do is, I would rocket in there, take a target lock. As soon as you get in range, attack with your flechettes, get them stressed, make it so that they're crippled and they're pretty much forced to get rid of the stress by using, like, say, a soft maneuver or whatever. Get into their line of fire with your, like I say, a hard 3 or a hard 3 or a hard 2 or whatever. Use the engine upgrade if you have to boost. And then, of course, by then you should have them in their firing arc. you should have them in your firing arc and them out of your firing arc. Wedge's ability plus outmaneuver would kick in. They lose their agility value, and Wedge is pretty much guaranteed a sure shot. Recommend you get in as close as you can. So range one this as much as you can. Yeah, so I'd say Wedge's role would primarily be full on assault. No, just use him. I would say just be reckless with him. Reckless to a point. Like, don't have him run into an asteroid or a debris field, but use him recklessly. Have him rush in and deal massive damage up close with his abilities, as well as his elite upgrade. But yeah, this is how I would field Wedge Antilles. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. Any constructive criticism is greatly appreciated. If you like, you may use this build for any competitive or casual play, or you could tweak it or revamp it to your own specifications. Thank you guys so much for watching. This is Corbin22, signing off.